The wind whispered ancient secrets among the trees as I walked the most dangerous crossroads I had ever set foot on. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from the energy pulsing through me like lightning cutting through the darkness. The evil spirit was near. I could feel its icy presence brushing against my skin like frozen fingers. The village of Ife depended on me in that moment. I was Exu, the guardian of the paths, and the time had come to use all my cunning to outwit the evil threatening to destroy everything I loved. A portal began to open behind me, a golden light contrasting with the dancing shadows around me. It was now or never. I took a deep breath and smiled, even knowing I was about to face the greatest challenge of my existence. Because that's how it works in the realm of the Orishas. When all seems lost, that's when our true strength reveals itself. My name is Exu, and this is the story of how I became the messenger between worlds, the one who connects the human to the divine through intelligence and cunning. But before reaching that crucial moment at the crossroads, I must tell you how it all began. I was born in the earliest days of creation, when Olarum was still shaping the paths that would connect all things. I was young, impulsive, filled with an energy I didn't know how to channel. Unlike the other Orishas, who seemed to have been born with clearly defined purposes, I felt lost like a puzzle piece that couldn't find its place. I vividly remember the day everything changed. It was a morning when the sun rose redder than usual, painting the sky with fiery hues that made my heart race. I was sitting by the edge of a river that flowed between two worlds, the physical and the spiritual, watching the waters reflect both reality and dreams. "Why do I exist?" I asked the waters, my voice echoing with a melancholy I couldn't explain. "What is my purpose in this vastness of creation?" That's when I felt a presence approaching. It wasn't threatening, but carried an ancestral wisdom that made my soul bow in reverence. It was Ifa, the Orisha of wisdom and destiny, walking toward me with steps that seemed synchronized with the beating of my heart. "Exu, my young brother," he said, his voice like honey mixed with thunder. "You ask about your purpose as if it were something external to you. Don't you see that your very restlessness is the answer?" I looked at him, uncomprehending. Ifa smiled and sat beside me, his eyes reflecting the same depth as the waters separating the two worlds. "You were created to be the bridge," he continued. "Your restless nature, your ability to question, your boundless energy, all of this exists because you are the one who connects. You are the messenger, the one who opens the paths between what is and what can be." His words resonated in my chest like sacred drums. For the first time since gaining consciousness, I felt a spark of understanding ignite within me. But there was still so much I didn't grasp. "How can I be a messenger if I don't even know what message to carry?" I asked, my voice laden with vulnerability. Ifa extended his hand and touched my forehead. Immediately visions began to flow through my mind like a rushing river. I saw entire villages separated from the Orishas by veils of misunderstanding. I saw people praying without knowing if their words reached the heavens. I saw evil spirits exploiting this disconnection to sow chaos. "This is your first mission," said Ifa, his voice now echoing within my mind. "The village of Ife is in danger. An evil spirit has discovered that the inhabitants have lost their connection to the Orishas. It plans to use this weakness to destroy everything sacred there." The visions intensified. I saw faces of people I knew, children playing in the dirt streets, elders telling stories under the shade of sacred trees, young couples dreaming of the future. All of them were in danger, and I was the only one who could save them. "But how?" I asked, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders like a mountain. "With your cunning," Ifa replied. "The evil spirit is powerful, but it is also arrogant. It underestimates intelligence, relying only on brute force. You must use this against it, trick it, divert its attention, and then open the portal so that we, the Orishas, can send our blessings directly to the heart of the village." I stood up, feeling a determination I had never experienced before. My restless energy finally had a purpose, a channel through which it could flow and create something beautiful and necessary. "I will do this," I said, my voice now steady as stone. "But I need to know, how will I recognize this evil spirit?" Ifa fell silent for a moment, his eyes closing as if accessing knowledge stored in the deepest corners of creation. "It will present itself as what each person desires most," he said finally. "To the hungry, it will be abundant food. To the lonely, it will be companionship. To the lost, it will be direction. But there is something it cannot mimic, the true light of spiritual connection." Where it is, you will feel an emptiness, an absence of sacred warmth. I nodded, committing every word to memory. Ifa stood and placed a hand on my shoulder. Remember, Exu, he said, your greatest strength lies not in your ability to fight, but in your ability to think. The evil spirit expects violence, brute force, direct confrontation. Give it the exact opposite. Be subtle, be clever, be you. With those words, Ifa vanished like smoke carried by the wind, leaving only the scent of incense and the feeling that my life had changed forever. I looked at the river once more, but now I didn't just see flowing water. I saw paths opening, connections forming, possibilities manifesting. I was Exu, the messenger, and I had a job to do. The journey to the village of Ife took 3 days and 3 nights. During that time, I practiced different ways to channel my energy, experimented with my ability to move between worlds, and most importantly, thought. I thought about strategies, about the weaknesses of evil spirits, about how I could use my restless nature as a weapon. When I finally sighted the first houses of the village, my heart raced, not just from nervousness, but from an emotion it took me a while to identify. Love. Love for those people I didn't even know yet, but who were already part of my sacred mission. The village of Ife was exactly as I had seen in Ifa's visions, but seeing it with my own eyes brought a whole new dimension to the experience. The mud and straw houses lined streets that followed the natural contours of the land, creating an organic pattern that seemed to dance with the surrounding landscape. Children ran between the houses, their laughter echoing like celestial music. Women worked in the yards, their songs blending with the sound of pestles and clay pots. But something was wrong. I could feel it. The spiritual connection that should have permeated everything, that sacred warmth Ifa had mentioned, was almost absent. It was as if the entire village were shrouded in an invisible mist that blocked the light of the Orishas. That's when I saw it. Friends, can you feel the tension in the air? The energy pulsing through me at that moment? This is just the first part of my journey, and I can promise that what comes next will make you understand why we, the Orishas, sometimes need to use our intelligence in ways humans don't expect. Stay with me in this story, because what happened in the village of Ife changed not only the fate of those people but the very nature of my existence as a messenger between worlds. It was in the center of the main square, surrounded by a group of villagers listening with an almost unsettling attention. At first glance, it seemed like an ordinary man, tall, broad-shouldered, with a smile that radiated warmth and confidence. But when I focused, when I truly looked with the eyes of my soul, I saw the truth hidden behind the facade. It was like looking into a bottomless pit disguised as a mirror. The surface reflected exactly what each person wanted to see, but beneath it was only emptiness, a void so deep and cold it made my soul shudder. The evil spirit had arrived before me. I approached slowly, blending into the growing crowd around it. My first impression was of how skilled it was. For each person who approached, it subtly transformed, not physically, but energetically. To the woman carrying a sick child, it radiated knowledge of healing. To the young man seeking purpose, it emanated promises of greatness. To the elders worried about the harvest, it whispered assurances of abundance. My dear brothers and sisters, it said, its voice sweet as poisoned honey, you have lived disconnected from the sacred for too long, but I have come to change that. I have come to give you what the Orishas cannot. Immediate results, definitive solutions, true power. I felt my energy stir within me like a caged animal. Every word from its mouth was a carefully disguised blasphemy. It was doing exactly what Ifa had predicted, offering people what they most desired, but in a way that would further distance them from the Orishas. An elderly woman approached it, her eyes shining with desperate hope. My grandson is very ill, she said, her voice trembling. The village healers can't help him. Can you truly heal him? The spirit smiled, and for a moment its mask slipped. I saw its eyes light up with a hunger that turned my stomach. It wasn't interested in healing, it was interested in the energy of hope and despair emanating from the woman. Of course I can, it replied, reaching out to touch the woman's face. But first you must renounce all other beliefs. You must stop praying to the Orishas, stop believing in the old traditions. Only then can my power flow through you. That's when I fully understood the malevolent genius of its plan. It wasn't just trying to win hearts and minds. It was deliberately trying to sever the connection between the people and the Orishas. Each person who accepted its help would become a little more isolated from the true spiritual world. I needed to act, but not in the way it expected. I took a deep breath and let my energy transform. Instead of revealing my Orisha nature, I shaped my appearance to look like a simple villager, young, a bit naive, exactly the kind of person an arrogant spirit would underestimate. "Excuse me," I said, making my way through the crowd with an expression of innocent curiosity. "I couldn't help overhearing your words. Do you really have that much power?" The spirit turned to me, and I immediately felt its interest sharpen. To it, I must have seemed like easy prey, young, impressionable, ready to be manipulated. "Ah, my young friend," it said, its smile widening. "You have eyes to see beyond appearances. Yes, I have power. Power to give you everything you've ever desired." "Everything?" I asked, letting a hint of greed tinge my voice. "Even knowledge of the hidden paths?" Its eyes gleamed. I had touched on something that particularly piqued its interest. "Especially that," it murmured, stepping closer to me. "You're interested in mysteries, aren't you? The secrets that connect the worlds?" I nodded, playing the role of an ambitious youth to perfection. "I've always been interested in those things, but I've never found anyone who truly knew." "Then you found the right person," it said, placing a hand on my shoulder. The touch was like ice burning my skin, but I kept my expression neutral. "But true knowledge comes at a price. Would you be willing to pay?" "Any price," I replied, letting my voice tremble with feigned emotion. It smiled, and this time there was nothing human in that smile. It was pure distilled malice. "Then meet me at the crossroads at the edge of the village when the sun sets," it whispered. "There, away from prying ears. I'll show you things that will expand your mind beyond any limit." I agreed and stepped away, but not before noticing how the other villagers looked at me with a mix of envy and concern. The spirit had made sure everyone saw our conversation, planting seeds of discord and competition where there had once been community. I spent the rest of the day watching from a distance, observing how it continued to work the village. It was meticulous, almost artistic in its malice. To each person, it offered exactly what they most desired, but always with the condition that they abandon the old traditions. Promises of wealth for the poor, health for the sick, love for the lonely, all disguised as benevolence, but in truth a slow poison eroding the soul of the community. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, I felt my anticipation grow, not from fear, but from expectation. The time had finally come to put my plan into action. The crossroads lay at the edge of the village, where 4 paths met under the shade of an ancient tree. It was a place of natural power, where the energies of different worlds touched, perfect for what I had in mind. I arrived first deliberately. I wanted time to prepare the ground both literally and figuratively. I touched the earth with my palms, feeling the currents of energy flowing beneath the surface. I whispered words of power in ancient tongues, opening channels that had been closed for too long. When it arrived, the moon was already rising, its silver light creating dancing shadows among the tree's leaves. "You came," it said, its human form partially dissolving into the darkness. Now I could see its true nature, a creature made of hunger and emptiness, sustained by the energy stolen from others. "I said I would," I replied, maintaining my guise as a young villager. "I'm ready to learn." It laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Learn? Oh, you foolish boy, you're not here to learn. You're here to be consumed. Your energy, your connection to the spiritual paths, all of it will become part of me. And through you, I'll finally drain this entire village of any link to the Orishas." That's when I fully understood its plan. It wasn't just trying to corrupt the villagers, it was trying to use someone with a true spiritual connection as a reverse conduit, a black hole that would suck all the sacred energy from the region. "Interesting," I said, finally allowing my true nature to begin seeping through. "But you made a fundamental miscalculation." It paused, its eyes narrowing. "What miscalculation?" I smiled, and for the first time since arriving in the village, I let my true personality shine through the mask. "You assumed I was just a young villager with some spiritual abilities," I said, my voice now charged with the power I had been hiding. "But I'm not just connected to the spiritual paths, I am one of the paths." The transformation was instantaneous. My human appearance dissolved like mist, revealing my true form. Exu, the guardian of the paths, the messenger between worlds. My energy exploded around the crossroads like fireworks made of pure light. The evil spirit recoiled, its face contorting in a mix of shock and rage. "Impossible," it hissed. "No Orisha can disguise themselves so perfectly. I would have sensed your presence." "Ah, but there's your second miscalculation," I said, slowly walking toward it. You thought you'd need to sense my presence to detect me. But what if I never tried to hide who I am? What if I simply shifted my frequency? I extended my hand and the energy I had been preparing all day began to manifest. It wasn't an energy of attack. It was something far subtler and far more powerful. You see, I continued, your entire strategy depended on isolating people from the Orishas, but you forgot that I'm the messenger. I'm the one who connects. And now, thanks to your own pride, you've brought me exactly where I needed to be. That's when it understood. Its eyes widened in horror as it realized it had fallen into a trap I had begun weaving the moment I pretended to be a naive villager. You tricked me, it said, its voice now laced with fury that made the earth itself tremble. Yes, I agreed, just as you were tricking the villagers. The difference is that my deception serves the light, while yours serves the darkness. The battle was about to begin, but it wouldn't be the kind of battle it expected. Can you feel the energy shifting, friends? The moment when the hunter becomes the hunted. This is the nature of cunning. Sometimes we must become what we fight to understand how to defeat it. But the true magic is yet to come. Stay with me, because what happens next will show why we, the Orishas, sometimes need to use methods that seem contradictory to reach the deepest truth. The evil spirit lunged at me with a fury that set the air around us ablaze. But I was prepared. Instead of striking back with force, I did something it never expected. I danced. Yes, I danced. Not a war dance, but the ancestral dance of the paths. One my soul had known since before it took form. My feet moved in patterns that mirrored the invisible crossroads of the spiritual world. And with each step, more energy flowed through me. You mock me, it roared, its claws slicing through the air where I had been a second before. I celebrate, I replied, spinning around it like smoke. I celebrate the wisdom you never understood, that true strength comes not from destruction, but from connection. And that's when I began weaving my true trap. With each movement of the dance, I opened small rifts between the worlds. Not portals large enough for physical passage, but subtle breaches through which the energy of the Orishas could begin to leak back into the village. The spirit was so focused on trying to strike me that it didn't notice what was happening around us. You think you can defeat me with tricks? It shouted, trying once more to grab me. I don't intend to defeat you, I said, my voice now echoing with harmonies from multiple dimensions. I intend to give you exactly what you came for. I stopped dancing abruptly and turned to face it head-on. I opened my arms, fully exposing my chest, my vital energy pulsing like a beacon in the darkness. Here it is, I said. All the spiritual energy you wanted. Take it. For a moment, the spirit hesitated. There was something about my offer that sparked its suspicion, but its hunger was stronger than its caution. With a triumphant roar, it lunged at me, its claws piercing my chest, seeking to drain my essence. It was the greatest mistake it could have made. The moment our energies connected, it discovered the truth about my nature. I wasn't just Exu, the messenger. I was a living conduit between all worlds. When it tried to drain my energy, it didn't find a finite well to deplete. It found a direct connection to the infinite source of all creation. The energy of the Orishas began to flow through me like a flooding river, passing through the evil spirit like water through a sieve. But this energy wasn't just power. It was purification. It was pure light, unconditional love, ancestral wisdom, everything the spirit had spent eons trying to corrupt and destroy. What have you done? It stammered, its form beginning to disintegrate under the pressure of the sacred energy. I gave you exactly what you asked for, I replied, my voice now echoing with the voices of all the Orishas. You wanted spiritual energy? Here it is. Every drop of love, every fragment of truth, every ray of light you tried to extinguish. The spirit began to scream, not from physical pain, but from the agony of a creature of darkness being forced to confront the reality of absolute light. Its form twisted, fragmented, reorganized, desperately trying to find a configuration that could withstand the tsunami of sacred energy coursing through it. Please, it begged, its voice now small and broken. Stop. I can't. It's too much. And that's when I felt something I hadn't expected to feel. Compassion. Not compassion for its actions, which had been genuinely evil, but compassion for the lost creature it had become, so consumed by its own hunger that it had forgotten how to exist in any other way. You have a choice, I said, slightly reducing the flow of energy. You can keep resisting and be completely dissolved by the light, or you can stop fighting and let it transform you. Transform into what? It asked, its voice barely a whisper. Into what you were before you chose hunger, I replied. Every spirit, even the most corrupted, began as part of the sacred creation. The light can remind you of who you truly are. I saw the conflict in its eyes, eons of malignant habits battling a spark of its original nature, that the Orisha's energy had begun to awaken. For a moment, I thought it would choose resistance to the end. Then slowly, it stopped fighting. The moment it surrendered was like the birth of a new star. The energy that had been tearing apart its corrupted form began to rebuild it from the inside out. Its claws dissolved, replaced by hands that remembered how to touch with gentleness. Its hungry eyes filled with tears of recognition. Its shadowy form glowed with a soft, golden light. I remember, it whispered, looking at its own hands as if seeing them for the first time. I remember who I was before I got lost in the darkness. I nodded, feeling my own heart expand with the joy of redemption. That's the true power of connection, I said. Not destroying what is different, but reminding it of its sacred origin. But our personal transformation was only part of the larger plan. Throughout the confrontation, the rifts between worlds I had opened with my dance had continued to expand. Now, with the evil spirit purified and the negative energy it had spread through the village dissolved, it was time to complete my true mission. I raised my hands to the sky and felt the portals open fully. What happened next is indescribable in human words, but I'll try to convey at least a shadow of the magnificence I witnessed. The sky opened like a giant flower, revealing not the darkness of space, but the golden light of the Orisha's realm. And through that opening, the blessings began to descend. They weren't physical blessings, though those would come too. They were blessings of connection, understanding, remembrance. Every person in the village of Ife, from the youngest child to the eldest elder, suddenly felt the presence of the Orishas returning to their lives like the return of a long-lost friend. I ran to the village, my heart pulsing with loving urgency. I needed to see, to witness the moment of reconnection. The transformation was visible even to physical eyes. The spiritual fog that had hung over the village dissipated like smoke in the wind. Colors seemed more vibrant, sounds more musical, the very air more alive and breathable. In the central square, where hours before the evil spirit had poisoned hearts with false promises, a crowd now gathered, shedding tears of joy. They didn't fully understand what had happened, but they felt the change in their souls. The elderly woman who had sought healing for her grandson ran home and returned minutes later, carrying a child who now laughed and played with renewed energy. The young man who had sought purpose stood in the center of the square, his eyes shining with a clear vision of his path in life. The farmers who had worried about the harvest looked at their fields and saw green sprouts emerging from soil that had seemed barren that morning. But the most beautiful thing of all was seeing how they reconnected with each other. The seeds of discord and competition the evil spirit had planted dissolved, replaced by a renewed sense of community and mutual love. "It's a miracle," someone in the crowd whispered. "No," I said, revealing myself to them for the first time in my true form. "It's remembrance. You were never truly disconnected from the Orishas. You just forgot how to listen." Hours passed as I spoke with the villagers, answering their questions, helping them understand what had happened and how to keep their spiritual connection strong. I taught them about the crossroads, not just the physical ones, but the spiritual ones, those moments in life when we must choose between different paths. I spoke of the importance of community, how our individual energies grow stronger when woven together like threads in a sacred tapestry. When the time finally came to leave, I felt a sweet melancholy settle in my heart. I had found my purpose, but that meant my journey was only beginning. There would be other villages, other lost spirits, other connections to restore. The spirit I had purified, now called Alafia, meaning peace, chose to stay in the village to help protect the spiritual connection we had restored. It was a beautiful irony. The one who had come to destroy would now become a guardian. "Thank you," it said as we parted, "for reminding me who I truly am." "Thank you," I replied, "for teaching me that even the deepest darkness can be transformed by the light of love." I walked away from the village at sunrise, but I wasn't alone. I could feel the presence of all the Orishas walking with me, their energies intertwined with mine like golden threads in a cosmic fabric. And more importantly, I could feel the connection to the village of Ife stretching behind me like a cord of light, reminding me that I had left behind not just a healed place, but a spiritual family that would be part of me forever. That's when I fully understood my nature as a messenger. It wasn't just about carrying messages from one place to another, It was about creating and maintaining the connections that allow all creatures to remember their sacred origin. I was a weaver of paths, a builder of bridges between worlds, a living reminder that nothing in creation is truly separate from anything else. And so began my eternity as Exu, the guardian of the paths, the messenger between worlds. Every crossroads would become my home, every moment of choice my opportunity to serve, every lost soul my chance to weave another thread into the great tapestry of universal connection. Because in the end, I discovered this is the deepest truth about existence. We are not separate beings struggling against the darkness. We are facets of a single infinite light. And my work, my joy, is to help each facet remember its own brilliance. This is the message I carry through all paths, at all crossroads, to all hearts ready to hear. You have never been alone. You have never been disconnected. You have never been lost. You have always been part of the great cosmic dance of love, and all you need to do is remember the steps. Friends, this journey I've shared with you is not just my story. It's the story of each of us. We all face moments when we feel disconnected, when we forget our sacred nature, when we need a reminder that we are part of something greater. The next time you reach a crossroads in your own life, literal or metaphorical, remember this story. Remember that there is always a choice between separation and connection, between fear and love, between hunger and fullness. And know that I, Exu, will be there with you, not to make the choice for you, but to remind you that you have the power to choose the light. May this story awaken in you the remembrance of your own divinity, and may every path you tread be blessed with the wisdom of unconditional love.